Hello, sports fans. Welcome again. Once again, I am your man, Big T, with your NCAA, not so official NCAA pick'em, here on location, live at the University of California at Berkeley, right outside on the steps of Memorial Coliseum. Beautiful campus, beautiful weather here on the opposite side of the bay where we caught our preview show from down in Palo Alto. We are in Berkeley. There was tons of games. Some of them were affected by Hurricane Florence, but let's not focus on those because we had a lot of games that came down to the wire and were fun to watch. So let's go ahead and get to it. First off, some of those games that we referred to earlier, UCF at North Carolina did not get played. It was delayed, and we will see if and when they reschedule it. So looking forward to that one into the future. Maybe having more impact on it as the season goes along. First off with the ACC, we're going to get to Georgia Tech and Pitt. Kind of didn't see this coming, but Kadri Olson paced the offense for the Pittsburgh Panthers with 2 TDs on the ground as the defense managed to bottle up the Yellow Jackets rushing attack as the Panthers went on for a 24-19 victory there at Heinz Field, and the defense locked the Yellow Jackets rushing attack down in the first quarter and staved off a late fourth quarter comeback. The Thursday night game we alluded to on the preview show, but I'll go over it a little more in detail this time, was BC at Wake Forest. They managed to get the game in just in ahead of Hurricane Florence. That way everybody was safe. Real good game, high scoring affair. The Eagles were led by Anthony Brown's 5 touchdowns through the air. Not since the days of Matt Ryan and Doug Flutie has that been seen there in Boston. So congratulations to that young man. But he led the way for the Eagles through the air, and a shootout between the two schools ended up in a victory for the Golden Eagles, 41-34 over the Demon Deacons there in North Carolina. Moving on to the SEC, first game on the docket was LSU at Auburn. Battle for the Tigers. The Bayou Bengals managed a last-second field goal as time expired for a 22-21 victory over the higher-ranked Auburn Tigers. Gus Malzahn's squad really struggled to find any sort of consistency throughout the game. However, it was highlighted by a few explosive plays. Unfortunately, they could just not seem to find a thread in which they could put anything together. So, what does that do for the SEC West? Who knows? It gives LSU a lot of confidence moving forward. However, remember, Auburn was in the same situation it was last year and went on to beat 2 number ones the last 2 weeks of the season, or the last 3 weeks of the season, to book their chance to go to Atlanta and play for the SEC title. So, we'll see how that shapes out as things shape up down the road. However, there's a big crimson and white cloud looming out of Tuscaloosa. And yes, I'm talking about Nick Saban and his boys, the Alabama Crimson Tide. They took on Ole Miss this week, and it was not pretty. It was more of the same. If you've been tuning in for the last few podcasts, it was more of the same, and it was bad. Straight up from the get-go. It looked like there might be hope. Ole Miss scored in a few seconds within the first quarter on a 71-yard touchdown pass, and that was it. Not another touchdown, no hope. The band was leaving in the third quarter. Everybody rushed to beat the traffic. I'm pretty sure Saban might have been pulling people from the stands to play. But just on all facets of the game, clicking on all cylinders, passing, rushing, special teams, and defense. Really, Nick Saban looked like the number 1 team in the country, and that was why. Okay. It really looks like they're firing on all cylinders and ready to take all comers. So, to whom is left on Alabama's schedule, beware. Finally, for the SEC, we had Colorado State traveling down to Gainesville. Gainesville had that nasty loss to Kentucky at home last week. They looked to rebound this week, and that's exactly what they did. Dan Mullins managed to put 21 points in the second and the fourth quarter to close out the game for a 48-10 victory over the visiting Rams. The Gators look especially sharp on defense with a block punt, and also an 85-yard punt return by Freddie Swain. So little good to see the Florida Gators getting some consistency, and we will see how they progress on with the season. Moving on to the Big Ten, big shocker in the Big Ten, more than one actually. BYU at Wisconsin. My boy, Squally Canada, love his name, once again led the Cougars on the ground with 2 touchdowns as the number 6 ranked Badgers came up short as once again, another last-second field goal sent the Cougars back to Provo with a W. 2 touchdowns for Squally, like I said, and the win sent the entire sideline into a frenzy. Good looking on the Cougars, knocking off their second-ranked opponent so far this year. So big things coming out west. Moving on to Missouri at Purdue. Once again, last-minute field goals are the deciding things this week. Boilermakers showing a lot of improvement on offense. However, the Tigers come through with a last-second field goal for the W, 40-37. Columbia starts SEC play very soon, and we'll see if that transfers and carries over. Lastly, in the Big 12 is Kansas at Rutgers. Kansas coming off their big road win last week, looking to keep the momentum with the Scarlet Knights visiting from New Jersey, and that's exactly what they did. The Jayhawks bounced back with led the defense. The defense led the way with 6 takeaways. Now that's going to set your team up for success in any stage of the ball game. And my second favorite name of the year, Puka Williams, set the table with 158 yards on 18 carries and another touchdown to help the Jayhawks put a W on the board with a score of 55-14 over the Scarlet Knights. Moving on to the Big 12, Ohio State at TCU. The Buckeyes capitalized with 3 quick touchdowns in a 4-minute span, scoring at a NASCAR pace. And they downed the Horned Frogs in Fort Worth. Ohio State provided a balanced attack both in the air, on the ground, throwing for over 300 and having over 100 rushing yards, showing great balance and as they get ready to enter conference play. USC at Texas. Now, this is one I had the visiting team coming in for the W. That was not the case. A stingy Longhorns defense answered the call, and after a shaky-looking first quarter, answered the bell, holding the Trojans to a blackout for 3 quarters as they went on to win 37-14 there in Austin. So it's good to see Tom Herman with a win, and maybe this will be the start of something good for the boys down in Austin. Finally, the final game for the Big 12, Boise State at Oklahoma State. I had the Broncos coming in and playing spoiler down at T-Boone Pickens Stadium for the Cowboys. However, the Cowboys looked to be firing on all cylinders, and unfortunately Boise State just really couldn't find any consistency in anything. The ground game showed sparks. The passing game showed sparks. They just couldn't seem to string anything together. And Oklahoma State was the exact opposite. Whatever they seemed to do seemed to work. They hold on for the win, 44-21 there in Stillwater. Moving on to the Pac-10, had a lot closer games than I thought they'd be. San Jose at Oregon. The Spartans put up a great effort. However, it was too much Donald Duck in Eugene as the Oregon Ducks passed for over 300 yards and came out with a win 35-22 over the Spartans of San Jose State. Moving on to the Fresno at UCLA game. Close to being the upset of the week. If it weren't for the Troy at Nebraska game, this would be the upset of the week. Fresno State at UCLA. The Bruins are in desperate need of answers under Chip Kelly. Fresno State comes in led by Marcus Mannion's 5 touchdowns. He had 4 on the ground, 1 through the air as a do-it-all running quarterback. And he was the difference maker there as the Fresno State Bulldogs beat the UCLA Bruins 38-14 there in Los Angeles. Big surprise. Didn't see it coming whatsoever. Finally, for the Pac-10, we have Washington at Utah. Really what turned out to be a slugfest between the two teams. The Huskies It was a tightly contested game. Myles Gaskin proved to be the bell cow of the Huskies yet again, pacing his team with 143 yards and a touchdown on the ground as he continues his third quest for 1,000 yards in a season. And finally, my cupcake of the week happened actually right behind me right here at Memorial Stadium. The Idaho State Bengals came down, and it wasn't pretty. Cal Bears put on a nice show, led by Chase Gardner's 3 touchdowns for the easy W, 45-23 victory for the Golden Bears here in Berkeley. That about wraps it up for week 3. I thank you, and as always, like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you have any comments, please leave them below. And as always, thank you for joining me. I hope you'll continue and join me next time. Thanks.